Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're here, you're probably preparing for the Casper, and if that's the case, you've come to the right place. Today, I'm going to be giving you all the tips and tricks that I used to score a 4th quartile on the Casper in less than a week and on my first try. So 4th quartile means that you score within the 75th to 100th percentile. So if you want to do that, then stay tuned for this video. Now, if you want to know a little bit more about the timing for this exam or what the Casper even is, then make sure to go check out my other video linked right up here, and I break down the exact format of the Casper exam from start to finish and the timing for each specific scenario as well, which you just cannot find on the internet. But now let's get into the nitty-gritty details on the steps that I use to do well on the Casper test. So first, let's talk a bit about how long should you even be studying for this exam. So I personally studied for 7 days, so I would recommend about a week. Even a little less is fine, but definitely do study. Don't just go into the exam without looking at any practice problems. And then each day I basically did about 3 to 4 practice problems, which if you really think about it, it only takes about 15 to 20 minutes of your day, so it's not a lot, but definitely do study and spend that time practicing both the video responses and also the written responses. Alright, so now let's get into my first actual tip, and that's creating a structured response for your answers. Keep in mind that every single one of your questions is going to be graded by a different grader. So whatever grader graded your first question is not going to be the same grader that graded your 5th question, for example. So you can really use a template to answer your questions, which is going to save you time and then also going to, allow you to put something down on paper even if you're super stressed. Okay, so here is the format that I used. So first, what you want to do is you want to identify the main issue. So clearly state what the main problem or conflict is. Then you want to consider all perspectives. So look at the situation from different angles. Think about all the people involved and what their viewpoints may be. Then I would suggest using an if-then approach to the situation. So if this happens, then I would do this. Lastly, state your solution. So make sure that you offer a balanced solution that addresses the main issue and also considers all perspectives. Your solution should always be stated at the very end and not at the beginning, so you're showing the graders that you're actually thinking through the steps that you would take, because there really is no right or wrong answer. So to put this into perspective, let's take a look at it from an example. So let's say that you and a colleague are, working at a restaurant and you're both always on closing duties. And let's say that your colleague always decides to leave early and they're like, you know what, I just really have to leave early. I can't stay, I have something that I have to deal with. And then you're left with all of the tasks that, are pretty difficult for closing. So when addressing this issue, it's important to put any biases aside and really look at it from both perspectives. So the first perspective is going to be from the colleague's view. So maybe they have personal issues that are causing their lateness that you might want to talk with them about or explore. The second perspective could be from the team's view or your view. The lateness really affects everyone's productivity and, it's affecting your ability to even leave early and, do the things outside of your job. So the solution would kind of be, you won't always want to get more information. So having a private conversation with the colleague to understand their situation and maybe work together to find a solution that benefits both them and the team. This is going to show empathy and problem-solving skills, and also going to show that you're not being selfish and, assuming that they just don't want to take on responsibility. Okay, so my second tip is going to be use buzzwords. So what do I mean by this? So what I actually did is I created a little flashcard and I put a bunch of words on there that I definitely wanted to incorporate into my responses. And as I practiced, I really tried to incorporate them and make them a part of my lingo in my answers. You can kind of use them like, I non-judgmentally approached a person privately to communicate with them compassionately and empathetically, based on our interpersonal relationship. Or you could say I used ethical and moral values and showed integrity in my actions. So using words like that are really going to help you stand out and kind of show that you are emphasizing those qualities when coming up with a solution. All right, now moving on to my third tip. So this one might sound kind of obvious, but the tip is be honest. So a lot of times we get lost in, what do the graders want to hear? What should I be talking about? At the end of the day, just be honest. When you read the prompt, just ask yourself, what would I do if this really was the case? So let's take a look at a very simple example. So let's say, your friend Bob, he's going through a very rough time. You kind of see him, he's, not really been focusing on his schoolwork. He's been looking kind of sad. His eye bags are really popping from a lack of sleep. What would you do? You'd probably try and go and, talk to Bob, have a private conversation with him, ask him if he, would be willing to talk about his situation or if there's any way that you could help. You might also connect him with some resources like psychological services or therapy. These are just steps that, any natural human being would take. Obviously if you're not a psychopath, but I trust that none of you are. I actually think one of the biggest reasons that a lot of people might score poorly on this exam is they really get lost in, what the grader wants to hear. At the end of the day, just be honest, be genuine, and I really think that's gonna go a long way and, can even take you to a 4th quartile score itself. Okay, now for my 4th tip. We all know that AI has become very big these days, and ChatGPT is just one of those platforms that can really help you out with this exam. So basically what I did while I was practicing is, I'd look at a prompt, I'd answer it, and then I'd paste my answer into ChatGPT, and I'd ask ChatGPT to give me feedback on this. Now, obviously take ChatGPT's feedback with a grain of salt, because sometimes it can tell you that you need to write a 5-paragraph essay to get a 4th quartile on this test. But instead of focusing on that aspect of it, just focus on the little details that it gives you. Maybe it'll tell you, be a little more compassionate. Maybe it'll tell you, oh, you never really asked for feedback. Maybe it will tell you that you didn't look at both sides of the situation. So ChatGPT can really help you get feedback, and it's obviously free, so you don't have to pay for an expensive tutor to get a 4th quartile in the Casper, but that's kind of how I use ChatGPT to improve my answers. So my 5th tip is going to be kind of related to practicing. So on the Casper website, there are actually some practice exams. I think there are 2, but they're very similar. So I would recommend just take one of them because if you practice it a couple days before your exam, you're going to know not only the format, but kind of how the platform looks like, and you can also reduce some of your testing anxiety because you're going to know exactly what to expect on test day. And then you're also just able to practice some questions from the test makers themselves. So definitely recommend taking that practice test maybe like a day or 2 before your actual exam. Now regarding practice materials throughout your study period or your study weeks, there are a couple websites that I recommend that have really good practice questions that you can practice with. But they don't really give feedback all the time, so I would obviously recommend using ChatGPT as I mentioned previously. But these websites that I recommend are prepmatch.com, Med School Insider, and thesuccessfulmatch.com. I'm going to be linking all 3 of their websites in the description below, so make sure that you check those out. They have literally hundreds of questions, so you could honestly never run out. Okay, so those are basically all of my tips. Let's quickly summarize them because I know I just threw a lot at you. So first, create a template for yourself. Next, use buzzwords. Third is be honest. Also, be compassionate. Then do not jump to conclusions. Your solution should be at the very end of your answer. Don't forget to address both sides. Be professional, don't overstep boundaries, and use an if-then approach. But yeah, those are my top tips for scoring 4th quartile on Casper. Make sure you leave a thumbs up if this video helped you and subscribe so you don't miss any more videos. I'm also going to be going into how to ace the AAMC preview because I know that that's a new test that has just come out and I recently took that test as well. So yeah, I'm sending good vibes your way as you study for the Casper. I know you guys will do great, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.